This is the Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. Actionable advice from real life superheroes who, just like you, are in relentless pursuit of the best version of themselves. Whether you're just getting started or have been at it for years, my hope is that this podcast injects you with some positive energy to continue doing what brings you joy. Join me as I interview the best of the best in business, sports, and life. Let's grow together. All right, Matt Gouget, Get Better Everyday podcast. Super excited to have my buddy Ben Alderman on, CrossFit athlete, business owner, father, husband, all those things. Give us a little 30 to 60 minute intro. Let me know if I missed anything on who you are.
I mean, you nailed it pretty close. When I tried to find myself, the only thing I try to add on is I walk by faith. So I'm a man of God, and I do my best to be a good husband, great father, and then with all the businesses I run and all the coaching I do, I try to make sure that I just pour my heart, my sweat, and my tears into it to help serve everybody who's trusted me with some small slice of their life. So that's what I do. I spent my last decade competing in the CrossFit space. In 2018, I was the 9th fittest man, 35 and up, in the world. And I've done my share of mixed martial arts, trained with some of the best of the best, even had a couple of training rounds with Nate Diaz back in the day, who just won his fight recently. So I've been able to kind of, do a bunch of different things. And yesterday I was spearfishing. So out here on Kauai. So I live a pretty active life. I run pretty fast, and I take my family along with me. So it's good times.
That's cool, man. I appreciate that. And I align with a lot of that, the business stuff, the being a family man, the fitness. I'd love to dive into too, because like this conversation started, we've known each other, worked out in your CrossFit gym before for years. But this specific conversation started because of something that I had posted about getting better every day. And you said, hey, Matt, let's have a conversation about the parallels between, physical fitness and business fitness. So I'd love to get your take on that. You're a business owner, you run successful businesses. You're also physically fit, 9th fittest man, 35 and up. Congrats on that. What do you think, where do those, parallels in staying physically fit, impact folks' businesses?
Yeah. I mean, to me, I've been in both. I basically started my entrepreneurial career at the same time as I started my pursuit for fitness. Fitness was a hobby, but when it became something that was much more than that, was a passion. I opened a gym to be able to do both, right? So it was my passion. I wanted that to be something I could do all the time. And so I thought, well, if I ran a gym, I could work out all the time, which is, I think, the way that a lot of gym owners get started. But it's also a very tough place to stay. But rather than going down the business side of it, I'll just go down the fitness side. So when you're trying to get better, you have so many people out there who are upfront with their metrics. When it comes to metrics, I'm talking about their lifts, their PR times, what they're doing for training, how often they're training, and so when you start getting closer, you have a lot of feedback to let you know if you're closing the gap, right? And so as an athlete, that's all I was trying to do, was close the gap on the next guy on my list, so, and it's easy to have a list because we're all ranked. And so you just find the guy who's number 107, and then you try to knock him off your list, and you find the guy who's number 82 and you knock him off your list, and then you find the next guy who's 40th, and so on and so forth, right? And you're able to kind of do that. And I was a bit of a slow learner in fitness. It took me time because I had all these other ideas. I didn't know some things that maybe I should have, and I didn't have coaches at the right time. And so I was a bit of a slow learner in that. But what it helped me develop was a level of resiliency that a lot of people don't have. And so what I always say is, hey, if you're going to be a slow learner, you got to be resilient if you want to try to get anywhere. So that's kind of like a phrase that I've lived by, and I'm okay with. I'm okay with learning things the hard way. I'm okay with going through that growth cycle, and feeling that out at times. And what I found through that process, though, after I kind of arrived, was there were some people who got there a little faster than me, and they had good coaches, they had more direction. Their background was a little different, even their genetics. Their genetics, allowed them to kind of achieve that high level of fitness a little faster. But there's this movement in CrossFit. It's not something that CrossFit started. It's actually started in Olympic weightlifting. It's called the snatch, and it's when the barbell comes off the floor and an athlete will pull it over their head in one movement, right? And so in CrossFit we do that. In Olympic weightlifting they do that. And I got to the point where I was relatively and thankfully, I'm still healthy enough to be proficient at it. I snatch 300 or more pounds typically. My best snatch ever is 315 pounds. But anytime you get to 300 pounds or above, you kind of can, like, you got some cachet, right? You can walk into any room, any lifting room. If you're in the weightlifting room with the Olympians, they're 300 pounds, right? You know what you're doing, right? You walk into a room with CrossFitters, they're like, that's heavy, right? So no matter where you go, you got a little bit of, like I said, you got some cachet, right? And you can walk in and out. But one time I was at a function in the Silicon Valley with a bunch of business guys. I was with CEOs and some of the higher ups of various organizations through a connection I had in fitness. And I was talking to the guy who runs a $6 billion company, and we're just sitting there talking over charcuterie boards, however you say that, right? And I said, hey, Mike, so what do you think is more difficult? I said, do you think snatching 300 pounds is more difficult, or do you think becoming a millionaire is more difficult? And I know we're comparing apples to oranges, right? But I know he's really passionate about fitness, and he's passionate about his company. And then he goes, I don't really know. I said, well, let me ask you this. Do you know more people who can snatch 300 pounds or more people who've made millions of dollars? And he said, I know a lot more people who've made millions of dollars than I know people who've snatched 300 pounds. And it got me thinking, I'm like, if I figure it out, through beating my head against the wall, to showing up to the gym and being consistent, doing things I didn't want to do, analyzing my own strengths and weaknesses, if I figured out how to snatch 300 pounds, then I can figure out how to make $1 million, right? Because those little pieces that you're missing when you're trying to do something that's great or outside of what you are naturally capable of or just predisposed to be able to do, you have to overcome a lot of things. And so I started looking at my business that way. I started looking at my life that way. And it was even more powerful. I started looking at my family and my marriage that way. I'm like, I don't want a great business. I don't want great lifts. I want a great life, And it's like, man, how do I find all the missing pieces and bring it in so that I am a millionaire when it comes to life, like my marriage? Like, I wouldn't trade my marriage for anybody else's. I wouldn't trade my kiddos for anyone else's. I wouldn't trade my day-to-day for anybody else's. Like, I love my life, and it's just by God's grace that he's left me here long enough to learn how to kind of walk and move towards that goal each and every day. So for me, those parallels, they aren't just analogous to business, but to life. So everybody should be looking at and turning over even the things that they're doing well that got them to this point, right? Because if you want to go further, we've all heard it, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got.
Right.
And so you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And so fitness doesn't allow that. Business doesn't allow that. I mean, the landscape of business is just changing all the time with social media being really important, not important, email campaigns being more important, not important, then this is important, funnels and whatever, and just how all this stuff works. It's like, man, I opened a gym because I wanted to do more fitness. And now I'm having to do all this other stuff, but it's all part of it. It's how you make it sustainable.
Yeah, dude, I love so much of that. Like, there's so much that I want to pull out of that. Like, first and foremost, I love, the analogies of working hard and taking it, step by step, in fitness, in business, and with your family. I literally had a conversation with my wife this morning. We talked about, the unfortunate circumstance that I find a lot of my clients in, where they're going through a divorce. And my wife said, aren't you lucky that you've got me, who's continuing to push you to work on this marriage every day? Because like business, like fitness, like everything else, like, it takes work every single day. In order to have a great marriage, we're working on it every single day. In order to be a good dad, I can't be a good dad one Saturday afternoon and then take the rest of the week off, right? It's something that I'm working on every day. I wanted to go back to where you started because I think it's really important. And at least what I heard out of it, and other people might have heard the same thing, as you were climbing the ranks and becoming more fit and chasing, you looked at number 107 and leapfrogged that and looked at number 82. Like I look at my own business and I think about how I did the same thing in mortgage. I started in 2014. I wasn't the brightest, the fastest, the anything, but I continue to work hard to get better every day. And over time, you do that. I'm curious to know too, because you know, it's similar in mortgage to where you look at somebody like, oh, this guy's doing 25 million a year. Wonder what he's doing. Then you leapfrog that. This person's doing 50 million a year. In the competitive athletic space, because I don't know a ton about it. I'm just, you know, your average Joe, whatever you'd call me, you know, the guy that tries to get to the gym 3 times a week. Is there in that community, because I know in the mortgage broker community, if I talk to somebody who's doing double the amount of business I'm doing or 4 times the amount, like they're more than happy to open up the playbook. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how I get better. Can you do that? Can you go when you can snatch 80 pounds and go to somebody and be like, man, I saw you snatch 305. How in the world can I even dream about getting 125 pounds snatched? As far as like, you know, the progressions and along the way, is that kind of stuff happening?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, is there that level of communication slash respect where people are willing to kind of open up the playbook and say, hey, if you want to get where I've gotten, then you need to do X, Y, and Z. Right? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly how it works. So I am constantly giving away what I've learned and, you know, on my end, but that's because people did it to me. You know, I got to train with some of the best. So I'm out here in Kauai right now. So I'm spending a month here with my family, which is amazing. And the last time, 2 times ago when I was here, I was in 2018. And I was out on the Nepali coast with Matt Frazier, who won the games a bunch of times, with Jason Kalipa, who won the games back in 2009. And I'm out there, you know, chasing sea turtles with these guys, you know, and when we're out of the water, they're telling me about, you know, business or fitness or whatever. And so those guys were really helpful for me, you know, at that time. And I've had other people in other areas who are good lifters. I've had Olympians and Olympian coaches be able to pour into me. I've had Olympic coaches who came to me and just said, hey, I think you really got potential in this. And so everybody has always been really uplifting and encouraging. There's a place though where that encouragement stops. There's 2 places really. The one place that always stops is on the competition floor, and so we do have a place where we all compete. And so in mortgages, there's a relatively infinite number of opportunity to create new business. We have, you know, depending who you are, you might have 3 competitions in a year. You might have 12. Right. So at those specific competitions, at some point, those tips and tricks, they kind of turn off,
Yeah.
you know, and it is what it is. And the other time it turns off is when people stop listening. Right. So if you don't listen to what people tell you, you know, all of us are pretty intuitive and like, hey, this person's not really listening. They're just talking with me. So they don't implement what I talk about. They're not using the little, you know, tips and tricks that I'm giving them. So I'm not going to really waste my time. And so people will stop coaching you and they'll stop, you know, pouring into you. And I know that because I've been in this space. I'm 40 years old now. And I've been doing it for a while. And I've watched a lot of people get kind of moved to the side and, you know, they move to let somebody else be preferred because if you don't want to listen, then people aren't going to force you to listen. So
yeah, I was on a call this morning too, where a colleague of mine in Colorado said he got advice from a billionaire that's been invaluable. You know, if you're willing to take the information and implement it, people who have had success, and like this is on the business side, but it relates to the fitness side. Like if you've got a student of yours in a CrossFit gym that like everything you say, working on it for 30 minutes. Like Ben showed me this little tweak where like if I move my hips this way, like whatever it is, right? Like you see that the next time he asks for 5 minutes of your time to help him out, you're going to give it. And the same thing's going to happen on the business side where like if you're hungry to learn and you respect the person's time and wisdom enough to go out and implement what they're saying. So like, I just wanted to pull that out for people real quick that like, if you're a student, whether it's in fitness or business or just in life, and you're willing to learn and willing to implement it, you will find endless resources, endless wisdom of people that want to help you, if you're the type of person that's listening it and implementing it. I want to take a turn just because, like, I know in my personal life, and talking with a personal coach about this, the lead dominoes for me in my business, when I step back and look, when is my business performing at its best? When am I really in the zone and really leading my business in the most effective way? The two lead dominoes are health and family. When I'm taking care of my health and I'm taking care of my family. So, I would guess that because you've got an intimate relationship with health and fitness and family and a business, either your personal experiences or stuff that you've seen, because you've got business owners who come work out in your gym, you've got friends and whatnot that run businesses. What have you seen as far as, like, somebody wouldn't automatically assume that, hey man, getting in great shape and taking care of your health is going to positively affect your business? What are maybe even some stories that you have that would cement that for somebody?
Yeah, so I talk about my personal competitive, background, and I love all that. But really, what it did, it gave me license to be able to talk to people about other stuff because they want to hear about it. But the reality is, not everybody wants to do what I did. Not everybody wants to spend the hours in the gym and make that climb. But a lot of people want to figure out, and I like that term, the lead dominoes in their life, because the reality is fitness should serve some sort of purpose, and for me, I have the third arm of my business is I actually do coaching for entrepreneurs and busy professionals, and so I coach them in fitness. So I develop their nutrition, their training, and their accountability programs. So it's basically like a business coach, but for their fitness. And so I meet with them, or I stay tethered to them 24/7. Obviously, I only have a handful of clients. I can't do this for too many people, and so I handle I help them eat the way they want, train the way they want, but then hold them accountable to that so they can still reach their fitness goals. Right? Entrepreneurs, we don't know when to say enough's enough when it comes to business. We don't know when to say, hey, I've got to kind of shut off my phone. I've got to focus on my health and my fitness. But the reality is, regardless of what you do, I don't care if you do loans and you meet with a homeowner or real estate agents, or if you're a real estate agent that meets with homeowners regularly, nobody wants to walk in and feel like the fat guy in the room. Nobody wants to walk in and feel like the undereducated person in the room. Nobody wants to walk in and feel like the unprepared person in the room, right? And those might seem kind of like insensitive terms, but the reality is, let's just say you're carrying 50 extra pounds of body weight and nobody else in the room is. You feel pretty, you feel a little bit smaller, a lot of people, right? You like everything else being equal, they've got to figure it out. And then when it comes to health and wellness, you're a little bit behind the curve. But you can have that confidence right back overnight, literally overnight. And people are like, how can you have your confidence back overnight? Can you lose 50 pounds of weight overnight? The answer is no. But if you're the guy in the room who's 50 pounds overweight, but you have a plan in place and you're working towards improving, once you're already making moves towards a goal, you're already feeling better, right? You're already feeling better about where you're at. You're already feeling better about communicating with these guys or girls or clients who are in shape or maybe just a little healthier. And so for me, and even on the corporate ladder, right? People who are climbing the corporate ladder and they're just like, they're saying yes and taking on every project, right? Saying yes, and they'll head every team. And I'm like, I need 3 hours of your time a week to get you in shape. They're like, I can't go to a gym. So I'll need you to go to a gym, right? I need 3 hours of your time. Okay. And it could be in the morning, it can be split up, it can be whatever. I need 3 hours. And actually, the reality is, I need 2 hours. I need 2 hours of people's time, and I'll keep their bodies high performing so it literally matches every other area of their life. You're a great husband, you're a great father, you're a great wife, you're a great business owner. your great sister or daughter or whatever, right? Like, but the health and fitness is not lining up, and your confidence is being undermined because of that. And I want to help people get their confidence back, right? So that's like the third aspect of what I do. So I coach at-risk youth, I coach in the gym, right? Person to person, one-on-one, face to face, and then I do online. So I have people who are in Florida. I just did a meeting with somebody who's in the UK. I did a meeting with people here in Kauai, right? So I coach people from like all over the place. Like ultimately what I do is I help people improve their fitness, so it bleeds over heavily into every other area of their life.
Yeah, I believe it too. And I know that in my personal life, it's one of those things where like, you might be high performing in those other areas and falling behind in the health and fitness, whether it's, time or a mental block or just not focus on it. Like besides the confidence you get from moving in the right direction and the momentum of like, I've got a plan and this is the direction I'm moving in, my energy levels are higher, feeling better about myself. For me too, having two boys that are active playing basketball, playing baseball. I want to be the grandpa who's out there and shooting hoops. I want to be the grandpa who's able to move around at 65 and whatnot. And like, I've had this conversation with many of folks where if you're a hard charging business person, like it can wear you down. And if you don't pay attention, like I know for me personally, going from 200 pounds to 230 pounds, like I move slower. I don't have as much energy. My 13-year-old is running circles around me in basketball, and I'm, on this renewed mission back in the gym. I think I'm at about 217 as of the recording of this. I should be at 200 by mid-October. And I'm going to feel better, right? And I'm going to have like to your point, the confidence, but also the energy and just the satisfaction you get from not just reaching the end goal, but from knowing you're on the right path. And like I love all the parallels, right? Because like the Get Better Everyday podcast for me is like you don't have to like achieve the goal to feel good. You could be doing everything wrong in your life. And I think a lot of people can relate where, in 2011, I was doing everything wrong. I took one step in the right direction and I knew it was in the right direction. And then I took the next step and the next step. And I've interviewed tons of people, super high achieving people. And to your point, you said like you might have done some stuff wrong. You didn't have the best coaches. You didn't have, everything God gifted, right? As far as like athleticism, but you worked hard and you continue to take those steps in the right direction. I'd love to hear too, because this is one of my favorite questions for folks along these same lines, is people overestimate what they can get done in a year and they underestimate what they can get done in a decade. Take me back, like ninth fittest person. Was that 2018?
Yep.
Okay. So 2008, 10 years before that, where were you? What were you doing? And then, some of the progression to reach like what is, I mean, top 10 in your age bracket from a fitness perspective, like that's the top of the mountain in my eyes. You didn't just get dropped off in a helicopter at the top of the mountain.
Yeah. No, it's getting in the gym, and I know that we know a lot of the same people, kind of being from the same area, and then me being kind of close to the mortgage industry for various reasons. But people would walk into the gym like off of class times, and they would hear weights banging around. And I remember my good friend Renee walked in one time, and he saw me just in there working really hard, doing like something like burpees, nothing fancy. He's doing the grunt work, and he just like, he couldn't fully wrap his mind around. He's like, he's by himself. There's no music on, and I'm just grinding, because what people don't see is it really is those unseen things. If you're constantly just waiting for somebody else to join you on your journey, right? Sometimes the places you want to go don't perfectly match, where they want to go. And also, yeah, if you want to go far, go together, and that really matters. You need a support system, but that doesn't mean you need somebody in there doing everything with you all the time. Your family's your support system. They don't have to be. They're not on this podcast with us. They're not meeting with clients. like you are. They're not, talking with your team and that's not what we're talking about. So I wasn't alone, but a lot of times my training, I had to do things that people didn't want to do. I made up a workout called the Iron Mile. I didn't know what to do. I just knew that the strongest guys in my space, what they could do. And so I just made up a workout that they had never done so I could set a new metric. And so this workout is you carry 275 pounds for a mile. And every time you decide it's a good idea to put it down, you're penalized and have to do 3 burpees. So then you have to do 3 burpees and then pick it back up. So it's, between 30 minutes and an hour, depending on who you are, of just literal grunt work. And so I did that. I mean, I've done so many weird and hard things that I would never recommend or tell people they should do, but you can't run a gym that I named Iron Mile Fitness after that workout. You can't run a nonprofit called the Overcome Project and not live up to the name. You can't just by name only be willing to be resilient or durable or push through. You have to prove it day in and day out. And this is one thing, and this is one of my favorite points to make with people is I think that a lot of us are really great. I think we're great at what we do, but we can easily become a liability if we're not on our A game. And so showing up and being on your A game every day is not easy, but we've got to push to give everything we have every day. And so when you're a business owner, you're the only one driving your business forward. Yeah, we have a team and we have a great team. We'd never take all the credit, but the main person at the top or at the bottom or whatever you want to say, pushing things forward is going to be, it's going to be us, like main people pushing our families forward. Like my wife is amazing. We could have a whole podcast how she has literally carried me at times, but she can't carry me forever. In fact, that's not really what she's designed to do. She comes along in my marriage and with us, we're very open and honest. I'm the lead and she's the help. I can't lead without her help, right? In the same effective way. We're still a partner, but there's a bit of a hierarchy in our relationship, and it's chosen. It's not because I put her in that place. We found that we just function much better in that role where there's the spiritual leader and more of the protector provider role is filled by me, and then she comes along and helps in that. And so anyway, there's a lot to that. I unpack a lot of stuff, but we have to be our best, right? If we show up halfway and we've decided to say, oh well, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? You have to be your best or else you can create a huge liability. So we're an asset to our family. We're an asset to our business. We're an asset to our friends if we show up our best. But if we show up less than our best, now we're all of a sudden a liability to the people we love and care about most.
Yeah. I mean, that one hits for me too, because I think about like, different seasons of life, different seasons of business, like you're going to be called on to do different things. If the real estate market is changing, if mortgage is harder, like you're going to have to dig deeper. And that's like people talk about digging deep in sports or in athletics. Like you've got to do that in business too. And you've got to remember, like, I'm the guy who was willing to put in the work and grind when nobody was watching. Right. And as a leader, to your point, other people are watching you. And if you're leading an organization, you're not willing to do grunt work, you're not willing to work hard when it's required. Like what kind of leader are you? And example to your, your whole organization, and then at home you're an example to your kiddos, all that stuff. I'd love to, because we're running out of time, talk a little bit about what you're doing with at-risk youth and your stuff there, because I for one love the whole idea of get better every day, and kind of like my mission behind this is to empower and inspire people who don't realize that like we're all capable of greatness. And I've met some people, I didn't have a privileged upbringing, left home when I was 16, went to public school. And so there's no silver spoons. I like to, remind everybody that not a single dime was ever given to me. Like everything that's been built has been through hard work. And I've seen some people that were never given anything, being able to, if chosen, the right path, if they choose it and they walk, that right path, able to accomplish great things. So tell me a little bit about the nonprofit. And I think that, that mission probably aligns with what I'm talking about with like trying to help people find that right path, find the right decisions.
Yeah, and that's one thing. So you talk about getting better every day. My whole thing was get 1% better every day. I told myself that day in and day out for years, and I don't feel like I have any kind of special privilege either. I'm kind of similar in that way. Um, I'm not super bright, like I said, just I'm pretty one dimensional. I know a lot about fitness, and it's been able to thankfully carry over into other areas, and help me learn life lessons. But still, there's a whole community, there's a whole subsect of our population that is starting from an even greater deficit because of their upbringing, because of choices that their parents made, or people who are, not even in their life anymore, who didn't care about them. So they're going to get 1% better every day, but they're starting from such a deeper deficit than what I had to deal with. I can say, I've grinded, I've pushed, I've had great coaches though. I've had people come along. I've had a very patient wife. I've had spiritual mentors. I've had people come alongside me and lift me up when I couldn't walk anymore. And so um, I I've had all those things, and these kids, they don't get that. You know, I'm talking about kids who live in group homes, court assigned, court appointed group homes, gang related. So when they go home, it's you got to figure out a way to get out of a gang without getting, really hurt. I'll just say it like that. Your family really hurt. Some of these guys, they leave their location where they all they know, and they move, a couple hundred miles away just to kind of get into a whole new, you know, social circle. It's really tough. And I played sports growing up. I wasn't a great athlete. Actually, most of my success as an athlete came later on in life. But I played sports at a community level. I played sports in high school and not college, excuse me, in middle school, and never anything special. I actually did a whole talk on my Mr. Practice award I got in like seventh or eighth grade, which is really embarrassing. But I had all these great coaches and athletes and teammates that had good parents who would just in terms of life, they'd spend time with these kids. They don't have any of that. They don't have the team. They don't have the sport. They don't have the person who's going to drive them to practice, to pay for their uniforms, to get them registered, to make sure they meet the deadlines. So what the Overcome Project does is we come alongside them. We say, hey, there's a sport out there where the person you're going to compete against the most is yourself. And that's in this sport that we do of fitness. And so we come alongside and we teach them fitness. And I teach them how to do kettlebell swings, and I teach them how to do squats, and I teach them how to run, and I teach them how to push themselves hard in a workout, and I coach them along the way, and I become that coach, or my wife becomes that coach, or some of my staff or another gym becomes that coach, because there's a gap, and what that gap is the financial gap for a lot of them, right? They don't have the means to pay for a gym membership. I don't know if anybody's ever done jujitsu or boxing or CrossFit or whatever. Gyms like that, they're not 24-hour fitness. They're not $20. They're not
Right.
$50 a month, right? And even if I could send these kids to those gyms, I wouldn't, because they don't get coaching, right? They would just walk in and they'd wander aimlessly from machine to machine. They'd pull their headphones on and off and swipe through TikTok videos, right? I want to get them somewhere where they're going to get involved in the community, right? Where the people around them are pushing them to be better, where the coach is pushing them to be better, where the program's pushing them to be better, right? That is by itself, already in of itself, puts them in another class just by them sticking with it, right? So the Overcome Project looks to bridge gaps with at-risk youth with a message of improvement and hope, right? And so I try to teach them how to get better every day, right? And in those inroads, I try to teach them about life and family and spiritual matters, where I can just pour into them, where we pour into them. And then when they leave the program and they go back home and they need a new social circle, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send them to the first gym that's structured like mine. And I'm going to pay their membership, right? That $150 a month or that $200 a month, that comes from the Overcome Project. And so when people donate to the Overcome Project, it literally goes to taking care of the gyms that put these guys up in there 2, 3, 4 days a week, so we can keep them from going back to the gangs. We can keep them from going back to just whatever it is, even laziness or whatnot. I'm out here on Kauai for 2 days, and I walk into the gym that I work out here. It's similar like mine at home. It's called CrossFit Poipu. They run another program. They've got a kid there from Sacramento on an intervention program. Walk in, he goes, "Hey, when he's done, I'm sending him to you in
Oh, that's
Sacramento to
awesome.
your program because he lives 5 minutes from my gym." What
Awesome.
kind of coincidence is that,
Yeah.
right? So constantly pouring into these kids, and there's a whole network of people in these spaces who are like yourself, who are thinking about other people and serving other people, and how do you push that forward? And for me right now, because fitness, my gym is doing really well and taking care of itself. I say that there's systems I still manage and check on, right? And I work with people online and virtually when it comes to coaching, which I literally love doing. But now this other arm of what we do, it can be totally giving back to kids that would never be able to do this on their own, right? And so that's what we do through the Overcome Project. Because fitness, like you said, it's analogous to everything we do, right? To rob people of that, to rob me of that, I'd be where they are or worse. If
Right.
I couldn't learn through fitness how to be a better husband, father, business owner, community member, if I didn't learn all those things through fitness, I couldn't learn them because I'm too dumb. I needed that. You know what I mean? So if these kids can benefit from that also, because most of these kids, they're already pretty smart. You know what I mean? They just haven't had, like I said, they're coming from a deeper deficit.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
But
that's what
but
we do with the Overcome Project.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. And I think with enough direction, a lot of these kids, like you said, they've got the drive. They've got the brain power. It's just a matter of putting them on the right path, helping push them along to get the first 10 or 15 steps under their belt, and off they go. So that's amazing. How can people check out the Overcome Project online?
So you can go to our, most of our stuff goes through the gym. So you can go through our Instagram, which is really good, Iron Mile Fitness.
Uh-huh.
And you can ask questions about the Overcome Project, about, online virtual coaching. If you want to go right to the Overcome Project website, it's the overcomeproj.org. Somebody stole the Overcome Project. I don't know who they are. I've been trying to hammer away at them. So the overcomeproj.org, and you can go there, learn more. That's a space if you guys are the kind of people who want to push money that way and funding and transparency in what we do, and you can donate there. But honestly, what I'm really wanting to do too is get people who are willing to let me know about other gyms with great coaches that might be sympathetic towards what we're doing, so I can meet with them and tell them and kind of increase the reach of the Overcome Project, increase the network of places I can send these youth when they're done, and I don't care where they're from. They could be from Sacramento, they could be from anywhere. And I want to increase that because the wider this net goes, the more kids we can help, the
Yeah.
better. You know what I mean?
Awesome cause, man. Awesome cause. All right. Ben, Iron Mile Fitness, Project Overcome, or overcomeproj.org. Anything else you want to shout out before we go?
You know what? I think that was just great. We covered a lot of stuff, man. I'm happy to catch up with you. I'm just a fan of everything that you're doing. I love the podcast. I love, just your message. So it's all good, man. If you ever need me for anything, let me know. If anybody ever needs help, kind of balancing fitness and entrepreneurial life and whether professional life, you can hit me up. You can go right to Iron Mile Fitness on Instagram. You can hit me up ironmile_Ben. Shoot, anything. I'll give my phone number out to people. I just doesn't matter to me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, enjoy the island out there and all this fun stuff you got going on and missing the Sacramento heat wave. Thanks again for your time, man. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely, Matt. Take care, man.
Yeah.